Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, August 26, 2025. So we started off with Pauline and Abe, and they're just in the middle of the square talking amongst themselves, and they're looking through this new book that Stephanie wrote under a different pseudonym. And Paulina, as everybody else in the town of Salem, is intrigued by what's inside the book. Abe didn't see it as yet, but Pauline said that she had to go to a meeting, so she would meet up with him to have lunch, right? So Abe looked at the book and he was also intrigued, so he ended up buying it, right? At some point, she comes back and he tells her that he has a surprise for her, that he bought the book, and they're just thinking to reenact it as well. He did ask her how the meeting was because she was meeting up with Jay. She said it was productive. Also, it got a phone call from Leo. I don't know why they keep mentioning a character that is not on at all, because how long has Theo been in South Africa? Why do we need to know about how he's coping after his breakup with Claire? Like, I don't think it holds any relevancy, but maybe it's leading to something further along in Salem. Let's see. So Stephanie has this big meeting with Xander because, again, Xander wants to use her to see how best, this secret that they're hiding can be kept on the wraps. And if anything, there's a danger that it might come out that, they can mitigate it. So Stephanie has a solution, which is, make Philip a legitimate owner of Titan the Mirror. Xander's not going for it because, again, because of pride, he doesn't really want Philip to really have any access to the company, and he's still upset with Philip for what he did. She knew that he wasn't going to be fond of the idea, so at this point, he's not really on board with her and her choices and everything, and he doesn't think that he made the right decision in actually talking to her about being on board and being the PR person, right? But, Stephanie is saying, okay, this may, make it look good to the shareholders and everything. And I agree with her because might as well you just do that, because if this should go under, you're going to lose everything. And, might as well you just make Philip an owner. Get over your feelings, get over your pride, and just do what you have to do. So Paulina meets up with Jada as discussed earlier, and they're just talking about the validity of the video that EJ showed in court against Chanel, because she knows that EJ is behind it. He's the one that actually, used AI to really, make Chanel be out to be the bad guy. And she's just asking Jada, look, did you investigate further on it? So she said that she spoke to a lot of people in the force that have been paid off by EJ, allegedly. And she looked at the bank accounts and she didn't find anything suspicious. So at this point, it could be a mistake. But again, Paulina believes that EJ is up to his neck in it. They also talk about Kristen and how Kristen could do this to her own nephew. They know she was unscrupulous and she's two-timing all the names in the book, but they couldn't believe that she would do that to her own family. But Paulina is not surprised because that's just who they are, two-timing, duplicitous. They're always backstabbing themselves. She just said you can't trust anybody with the name Demira apart from Johnny and Chanel. And I'm saying, what about Chad? You forgot Chad and his children, Paulina. But anyways, that was really their meeting. Nothing more, nothing less. So Belle earlier was just there, and she tells Paulina that, look, we can't have the meeting again because she just needs some time to reset. She's been through a lot, and Paulina understands. It's the end of the trial. They can pick up at some other time, right? So she's thinking about how the relationship with EJ, resulted in chaos and just a lot of drama, and she misses him regardless of her having her disdain towards him. She still misses him, and she goes over to see Philip, and Philip is already busy with Gabby, right? So what turned into just them having a dinner, drinks, whatever, it turned into them spending the night, right? So anyways, Gabby said we should do this again, and of course Gabby's just trying to do this to get into Philip's good graces so that she can find some intel on them, on him and Xander's cooperation. And also Philip, he is just taking it all in. At some point he remembers how they almost slept together, And at the time he was into her, but she was still into Jake. And she said, it's different now. I'm over that. I definitely like having fun with you and all of that. So I guess they will pick up at some other time, right? So anyways, Belle comes and knocks the door. Gabby opens the door, and she didn't know it was Belle. Of course, Belle realized, put two and two together, that they were doing something very raunchy, right? So she leaves. And Philip said he's sorry about what happened with Gabby, and he didn't expect her to come. So Belle doesn't want to hear the details, doesn't want to know what's going on. She came over there to warn him, right? Because apparently, she spoke to someone, and they are on to what's happening between Philip and Xander, right? So the person asked her, to provide more information, but she couldn't do it because of client confidentiality. So Philip asked her again to, help out with this whole thing, but she can't do nothing further on that, right? And he's upset about it. And he's saying, I always do favors for you when you're in a bind and all that. You can't do the same for me. So he's saying, like, that's not fair and all of that. So, he's coming at her, and she's really feeling down about a lot of things with the breakup with EJ, and then her father's dead and everything. So at some point it gets a reset. And he's saying, let's play hooky. She is also saying that, look, why not? So they decided to just have fun and spend time out there, right? So Gabby comes home doing her walk of shame, thinking nobody's gonna catch her sneaking into her house. And Ari comes in. Ari's giving her the Gabby treatment, or the mom treatment, where she's asking, "Where have you been all these hours? I was worried about you. I sent you 300 text messages." Basically giving her script back to her, right? So Gabby's saying, um, I missed the call or something, that she's making excuses that I would have made. I already said, like, I was texting you, I was worried about you. Where have you been? Basically giving her own treatment. So she said, last time I checked, Ari, I'm an adult. I am, not because you were 18 and I had to like give you the right. It means that you should turn around and give it to me. I'm a grown adult. I'm your mom, but I'm a grown adult. I have my own life, right? So she said, like, did you do it with somebody? Have you been sneaking out with somebody? So she said, he wasn't with a random person, spur of the moment. So she said, oh, so you can go ahead and do all of those kind of things, and you're gonna be mad at me when I have a life and I'm doing what I'm doing. So she said, you were out with somebody that was, owing people and a bad boy. So she said, I'm not into the boring type and all of that. So she said, okay, I'd rather you be with the normal people, and when you go back to Arizona, it's all gonna be good. So she tells her that she doesn't want to go back there, and she's starting school here, and she asked her if she'll be okay with it. So she said, yes, I want to be okay with it, but you might have to talk to your dad. So she talked to them, and they're on board with it. So she's happy about that. And she also tells Gabby that, look, you don't need to worry about you giving me space. I'm going to be living on dorm. So she said, okay, cool. She's okay with that. She was planning for them to have more, mommy and daughter time and all that. But, that was really it. But I just found it comical how she was just reversing the whole thing. So anyways, Stephanie goes to meet her dad, because her dad finally found the information from Paul that, look, Philip has been doing some, nefarious things. And then, Stephanie comes over, and Stephanie's like, what have you found out about Philip? Because he told her about it, right? So he said that, Philip has no legal claims to Tyne Mirror, but you already know that, right? So she said, yes, I knew about it, but you have to keep it under wraps. I really don't want this company to go down. And she said, do you really want the Mirror to get by the company? So he's like, not really, I don't really care. So she said, do it for me. I know it's a big favor, but do it for me. So he said, you know what, I'm gonna do it for you, because I have to choose between my client and my daughter. I'm gonna choose you every time, right? But just know that this secret is not gonna keep under wraps for a long time, and you gotta prepare your boyfriend for this kind of outcome, right? He also tells Gabby, because he meets up with Gabby at her house, and he gives her back her retainer, and he says, look, like, I can't go forward with this, right? He doesn't give her a reason. So he said, if I were you, I would drop it. So she said she's not gonna drop it. So, anything happens to her in this crossfire that she's in between Philip and Xander, she deserves it, right? Money hungry and power hungry is just gonna result in disaster. So Alex meets up with Xander, and they're talking about the meeting with Stephanie, and he tells him that, look, the meeting never go well because she wants me to, have Philip be signed on as a legal owner of the company. I just feel like that is not gonna work. And if this was gonna be the outcome of our meeting, I would have hired somebody else. Like, honestly, this was not the expertise I was looking for. So it was just basically berating her because he doesn't agree with her plans. And Alex gets offensive about it. He doesn't like how Xander's coming about his girlfriend. He said, like, watch it or, else. So he said, what are you going to do? Quit? So he said, no, you're not going to get rid of me that easily. But if you keep on harping about Stephanie, like, me and you are going to have a problem, right? And furthermore, like, unrelated to this, have you actually started going to Dr. Melena's session? So he said, I'm actually going to go to one of them. So he said, good, hopefully you become a happy boss, and happy boss will make a happy workplace environment, right? At some point he's in the square with Victoria, and he's talking to Victoria about how he wants Philip out and everything, and trying to find a plan to get rid of him permanently as usual. I'm like, I like Xander, but I'm just tired of him doing this to Philip. At this point, get over it. Work along with your brother. You did something to he did something to you. Just get over it, right? He does get a message from Marlena about if he's still interested in going to her sessions, and he does say that, yeah, if I don't want to lose custody of my daughter, definitely gonna do it, right? So Alex comes back to Stephanie's place, and he's doing some work at home, because it's just better there. So Stephanie comes home, and they miss each other today because of their own respective meetings with Xander. She tells him how it went and that Xander was not in agreement with her plan, and yeah, he got the gist when he actually met with Xander as well. So she also tells him that, look, she met up with the person who is actually looking into their company, and the person said that they will back off about it, and they're not going to have no problems with it for now, right? So Xander can cool down for now, right? He also tells her about his encounter with Jada, because he was in a tower when Jada come in looking for an item, and he thought she was at work all along, but she said that she'd come back to get an item, and they forget all about it. It wasn't that bad. So Stephanie is all cool with it, and that was really it. Jada actually met up with Ari at the pub. She ran into her. Ari's reading this novel that Stephanie wrote. She's saying, if that's the person's real name, and she's getting into it, and Jada also agrees about it. Jada already knew who the real author is, but she can't reveal that. So she said, it's worth the read, all of that. So anyways, that was really it for today's episode. Nothing more, nothing less. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys tomorrow.